Hello, welcome to the Creative.Tech TV. Hi F, thanks for being in our show today. Great to have you as a musician and who are very actively using technology and internet and social media in exploring your music and giving it to the world.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really happy to be here.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna begin with the question first.
Okay.
For the first question is like to begin it, just for the benefit of our audience, could you tell us how you got started with the music? And then also I heard that you were pure science in your high school last time.
Yeah.
How do you migrate from as a pure science to the music?
So how I started in music? Well, the first thing, I was kind of into music when I was a kid, but I never played an instrument. So some of the earliest things I listened to were like, I mean, being in Malaysia, right? Listen to For You to See, listen to KRU, listen to Feminine, listen to Nico, all this like early 90s kind of I guess
early 90s rap.
like rap or like, you know, boy band or whatever, this kind of things, right? And I was really into it. It was really fun music. And so from that, then I discovered I remember discovering like TLC and Chris Ross, and that was partly because of like how do I say, you know, last time they had Oprah Winfrey show, and like I mean, you can see the show, right? So they will, and I think in Oprah Winfrey show they will have guests on the show. So among them would be like TLC. I think TLC was one of the shows. Like all these artists were guests on the show. So that's how I found out. And then, but at that point I didn't play any instrument yet. It was only like around Form 4 that a friend of mine played. I saw my friends playing guitar, and then I was introduced. It's always a girl. It's always a girl, right? The stories always have a girl. So this girl told me about this band called Nirvana. And at that time I was only listening to R&B and hip hop, rap and hip hop, right? And then I was like, oh, I heard about this Nirvana band thing for a while. And I bought the cassette. It was Unplugged in New York cassette, you know. So I listened to it. I was like, okay, you know what? I want to start playing guitar. So that's how it started lah. I started playing guitar, and from that, I got this was in the middle of Form 4. I got much more into it, and by the end of Form 5, right, I decided that it was, as a pure science student, I actually was thinking I was also into video games. I still am into video games. So I thought like, hey, either I wanted to be what would be basically a game designer, be a game designer or like coder or like something in video game development, right? Games development. That time I don't know what it was. I either wanted to do something like that because I like electronic arts games, EA games, and things. Like I used to play all these video games on Super Nintendo and on the PC and stuff. So either wanted to do that or wanted to do music. And for some reason, it leaned more and more towards music. And so at the end of Form 5, I applied. I went to this music college lah. I applied to this music college called International College of Music, and that was the beginning of it lah. That was the beginning of 4 degrees in music. So I went there, then I studied for my first degree in music arranging, and then I was performing for a while. And then I applied to go to Berkeley College of Music, and then I went there and I graduated with a double major. And then after that I went to California, and then I did my master's. So kind of like this interest in music became something more serious around Form 4, Form 5. And it took over from the tech thing, the science thing. Even though I graduated, I was a pure science major in Sekolah Menengah.
In Malaysia, Form 4, Form 5, basically the age is like
16, 17.
17,
yeah.
And before I start with question number 2, can you play a little bit on the Nirvana song that triggered you to the music?
It was this lah. Sorry, I haven't been. This kind of thing lah. And also the one from the album was the Bowie song, I think, that one, and then Nirvana songs like these songs like around that time.
Right.
So that was all the beginning.
Right. Talking about Nirvana, last time when I studied there in Washington, which is near to Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle.
I met my classmate, who his brother is a friend of Kurt Cobain.
Oh my God!
I was like, wow. But
so new.
Wow. Look at it. Okay, let's begin. Question number 2.
Okay.
Okay. So you attended the most prestigious music colleges in the entire world. Okay. So Berkeley College of Music.
Yes.
So can you share with us how the experience that like for you?
Okay. Yeah. Berkeley was an interesting time because I was there from 2005 to 2007, and I already was studying music here in KL. I actually already had my degree at that time, but I always wanted to go to Berkeley, and I went there, and it was great because you have students from all around the world. So you have people from you have people from Southeast Asia, from Japan, from Korea, from Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore. Then you have all these people from the US, and you have a lot of European students as well. So it's Australians, New Zealand, from all around the world. Canadians, South Americans, a lot of South Americans as well when I was there. And it's very eye-opening because you get to see music from different cultures.
Right.
You get to see how people think from different cultures, how people talk. And I think the experience of being in a classroom where you see someone who's been like a prodigy since they were a kid, and some people who are really like metal guys, they only are really into metal, or some people who are only into Latin jazz, or some people only into like different styles of music. It was very inspiring. And also I think being in Berkeley, you quickly realize what you're good and what you're not good at. Because if you're in your hometown, let's say I'm in KL, right, in Kuala Lumpur, right, let's say I'm good at something, like say I was into, at that point I was much more into fingerstyle guitar, acoustic fingerstyle guitar, and it was still a niche over there. Actually, when I was there, it was definitely a niche lah. So that became kind of a strength for me, and so I think it taught me that if you have your strengths, you want to build and develop those strengths. And then the things that I am interested in but I'm not so good at, I try to see what classes I can take, majors I can take there. So I was really into Brazilian music, for instance. So I took like Brazilian guitar lab, Brazilian ensemble, took a lesson with this guy named Bencher who was specializing in, so it would be all this kind of like if you spend about 4 months, right? I mean, 4 months is not a long time, but within that 4 months, I would create what I like to call, and I tell my students this as well, like mini concentration. Right. So within the 4 months, I would take the Brazilian ensemble, I would take the Brazilian guitar, I would take Brazilian like guitar lesson. So within the 4 months, I just immerse in this one topic, like really get into it. And I find that that's a really good way to get good at something faster. That's something that I did a lot when I was in Berkeley. So I was into harmony, like chord progressions. I would take those classes by this guy Steve Roshinsky, and it's like very geeky lah, like advanced harmonic concepts, advanced modal modal harmony, reharmonization. But if you take all those classes that are related, you get good at it. So that kind of thinking I still apply now. So when I'm interested in certain style of music, that's how I plan my own journey as a musician. When I do my own projects, I get into a certain topic and go deep into it within a certain period lah, 4 months to a year or a few years.
Okay, like that. Cool. Yeah. That's nice. Okay, next question is like, so not only you study in Berkeley, but you also taught at Berkeley.
Yes, I did.
So could you talk about the experience that you had last time?
Yes. So I was teaching for this thing called the summer guitar sessions. And what happened was I just graduated, and then I got roped in to teach at the summer guitar sessions, which is a 1-week program. It's a 1-week program. Mostly a lot of high school students. They would come in for the summer and get into guitar. I was teaching a class called a fretboard harmony, which basically if you play guitar, right, it'll teach, it's like kind of a theory slash application. So let's say if I want to learn, you know, a certain kind of chord, right, you will learn all where to play that chord all around the guitar, or certain scales, how to think about it.
Okay.
So they had like, I think the students had 3 kinds of classes. Like one was like a styles class. So let's say you're into rock, right, you would take one class where you just learn how to play rock.
Right.
And then I think they had an ensemble class where you play in a group, in a band, that kind of music. And then they had my class, which is like advanced, like the fretboard harmony class, where you learn. It's like kind of a applied theory class.
Okay.
And I taught the beginner, intermediate, and advanced classes. So there will be a lot of teachers teaching these classes, but I was teaching like a section of beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And it was great because you get to meet like really enthusiastic students. In fact, some of them, I know at least one of them who now, that time he was a student for that program. Later he went to Berkeley, and now I think he's a film scorer. He writes film music now, and I think we found each other online, got in touch. But it was a great experience, and I'm very happy that I was part of the faculty. It was really, really good. I did that for 2 of those programs when I was in the US.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question is that after Berkeley, you moved to San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah.
How was this experience? Like living and studying and working there?
So yeah, the San Francisco Bay Area was great because it's basically Silicon Valley, right?
Right.
So I live in this place called Berkeley, California, which is kind of like across the bay. So you have like San Francisco, and then you have Berkeley, and I liked it there a lot because it's very artsy. It's like I was basically kind of walking distance from UC Berkeley, which is a prestigious university there. But I studied, actually, I did my master's at this university called San Jose State University, which was, to be honest, it's like a 2-hour commute. But for some reason I was very stubborn. I wanted to live in Berkeley. I found a place in Berkeley, and I continued to live there for 2 years plus there. And I studied in San Jose State University doing my master's. But as a result, I had kind of the best of both worlds. Like I had things that happened in Berkeley, and I had things that happened in San Jose, which is Silicon Valley basically.
Right.
So it was a great experience because I got to meet a lot of amazing musicians. When I was there, I got to play with in sometimes session for different people. I played in my master's program. Even though I was a jazz major, I also managed to take classical guitar lessons. Also did classical ensemble, played in the jazz orchestra, the big band, and then I would play in the classical guitar quartet. And beyond school, I also played with singer-songwriter Tara Linda. And from playing with her, I got to play with some Grammy winners, with Flaco Jimenez and Max Baca. We did recording sessions with them. So it was for her project I played with that. But as a result, I got to record with them, be on the same album actually. With Max, we were recording in the same session. And then also perform with them. Like we played at this accordion festival. This is a festival called Kotari Accordion Festival, and we played on stage together. So that was amazing, and I got to travel because of the music as well. We did recordings in Sacramento. We did some recordings in Texas, and from Tara Linda also, we did a tour in Europe. Later on, when I moved back here, right, I still toured with her to go to perform in Spain and in Germany for her tour in Europe as well. So it was such a great experience. That was from the time in the Bay Area.
Okay.
And yeah, it was amazing, both musically, learning wise, and also just the environment, because it's the San Francisco Bay Area. So I got to see a lot of things that were happening in technology around the same time.
Right.
I would meet people who were, they were working in Yahoo or working in Mountain View, or knew someone at Google. So just being in that environment was very inspiring.
What year was that?
I was there from 2007 to 2011.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was actually longer in the Bay Area than I was in Boston.
Boston.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
So next question is that you are the most active musician that's I'm seen embracing technology.
Yes.
By teaching via Skype, using Facebook, Live, Instagram, YouTube. How do you find all them how do you find all this time to do this? And then how important you feel about social media is the modern musician?
Okay. I think for the modern musician, it's really important to be aware of social media, because that's how we reach the world now. I mean, most of the time, right? I mean, I'm a huge Gary Vee fan.
Okay.
So, and it's our attention, like, you know, if you check any Gary Vee out, he's always saying that, you know, our attention is on the phone all the time.
Right.
So I feel that as a musician, it's in order for people to notice us, we need to be on those platforms. So which is why I think I started doing Facebook Live maybe 3 years ago, maybe. Like when Facebook Live started, when they offered that, I was on it quite quickly. And at that point, I think Malaysians were not so much into it. The people that watched my Facebook Live at that time were mostly from Hong Kong, from Korea, Hong Kong, Korea, Japan, not from Malaysia.
Oh.
Because the internet, I think, is faster there, right? So they're used to watching streaming video.
Right.
And here, because I remember I asked people, you know, where are you from? Oh, I say Hong Kong. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. I don't know how the algorithm was at that time, but
right.
the audience was not from Malaysia, from US, and also from those. And nowadays, when I do Facebook Live,
right.
it's a mix. And in fact, it's more my audience now on Facebook Live tends to be more Malaysian. Like a lot more Malaysians are watching my Facebook Live.
Okay.
And so that's one. And I also did when Periscope was like kind of the cool thing. This was before Facebook Live. I also did Periscope. Then I shifted to Facebook Live. I also did Instagram Live as well.
Wow.
And I like the live platform a lot because I like the interaction. Like, you know, someone can type out a question like, hey, how do you do that on guitar? And if I can answer that, I'll answer that in the thing.
Okay.
So that's one part. And then the other part about the like social media, I post a lot of free lessons on Facebook, and I find it is really great because you get to reach out to people who might not be able to take lessons with me, or might not, maybe they're in Kelantan or Kuantan, or I get nowadays, I get a lot from Kota Kinabalu and Kuching, from East Malaysia as well. So I find that they find me, and at least they have this connection through social media. Also with the music, and how do I find time to do all this? It's just part of my daily life. I try to make it just part of it. So for example, now I just started a podcast last year. I'm probably about 140 or 145 episodes right now.
Wow.
And I just record it on my phone. I use this app called Anchor.fm, and I record it on my phone. And sometimes while waiting for a Grab, I'll record an episode while waiting for the Grab.
Wow.
And some of it, like the Facebook Live, I do. This is what Gary Vee does as well. I mean, I take the audio from the Facebook Live and I actually will edit it into a podcast episode as well. So I'm trying to do that as well. And in terms of getting an audience, I've gotten students from Twitter who found me from Instagram, who messaged me on Facebook, and so it's really great to get both music fans and people interested in learning. So it's really good.
You mentioned that on the topic of social media. What are your thoughts about Gary Vee?
Oh, okay. I think Gary Vee is great. I'm biased lah. I'm a huge Gary Vee fan.
Right.
In fact, I think we bumped into each other at the event where Gary was speaking. He was speaking in Kuala Lumpur, right? And I saw you there. I think what I like about Gary is how straightforward his thought process is about it. You know, he talks about empathy. He talks about knowing yourself, being honest with who you are, and to be really honest. Earlier this year, after that event, was when I really went double down on my social media stuff. I started posting way more stuff than before. I was already posting a lot, I felt, but I realized how much more I could be doing and sharing online.
Right.
And so it was really inspiring. I think the other thing that I liked was Gary has this thing where if you're not sure of something, you just test it. And so if I'm not sure of whether a piece of content or lesson works, I just post it on Facebook, and immediately, or Facebook or Instagram. And if people don't like it, you can see it's only 2 likes, or people don't comment on it.
Right.
Then on the other hand, I will have stuff where 27,000 views will be on the video, 250 shares or something. That means that topic is something that people are really interested in. So it means that I should probably explore talking about that more. So it's like, I think Gary calls it the market is the market is the market, which means the audience will tell you what they are interested to know from you.
True.
And I've been doing that a lot more, just posting stuff and seeing what people think.
Next, you are an author now.
Yes.
With the 4 ebooks
Yes.
that are out there.
Yeah.
How do you come about it?
Okay, so you can see the whole environment. My dad's a writer, so I grew up in books, right? So it was inevitable that at some point I wanted to write my own book.
Right.
The first book I wrote that I released was not last year but the year before, called Jazz Improvisation Uncovered. That book came about from I was doing a workshop in Penang, like a jazz workshop, and I decided instead of just conducting the workshop, I got questions from the people who participated and I answered those questions and made a little like kind of a PDF of it. And that one, I initially just gave it for the participants of that workshop.
Right.
Then later on, me and my manager Yin were discussing, and she said, you know, I already made this booklet, this PDF for them. Why not we edit it and change it a bit to become an actual ebook? And so I thought that was a good idea. So I edited it a bit, we tweaked it, and then we released it, and it was very well received at that point. In fact, I got some good quotes from Julian Lodge, who is a really famous jazz guitarist in the US, Abigail Aronzon, Ben Shear from Berkeley College of Music. They teach at Berkeley faculty at Berkeley. So it was very well received, and that was 2017, end of 2017. Last year, I released 3 books.
Wow.
And what happened was 2 of it was called Jazz Guitar Licks and Etudes 1 and 2. So it's part of a series lah. Another one is I think 35 basic guitar chords for beginners. It's like a beginner chord book.
Right.
And the Jazz Guitar Licks and Etudes were notes, and some of them like material that I would have given to my students. I compiled it together in a way that made sense for people who wanted to learn jazz guitar but didn't know what to practice. Maybe they already play some jazz guitar, but you know, there's so much stuff online for free, but sometimes there's no curation, right? You don't know, is this good, is this bad?
True.
So instead to make it easier for people, if they like my work, then they could get the book and have something to practice. And that's how, so 3 of it are jazz books. 1 is a beginner guitar book, guitar chord book lah.
Yeah, that's the thing that I always observe, is that a lot of business out there, they go for money, but they don't go for value. Okay, next question. You are 3-time TEDx presenter.
Yes.
And been invited to present talk for corporates.
Yes.
How was the shift to speaking engagement like? And then is it the same as teaching?
Okay. So as you can see, I like talking.
Alright.
So I think the thing was this, you know, it was kind of like I was already teaching, and I was already doing a lot of Facebook Live and Instagram Live, so I was already talking a lot, engaging a lot with my audience and people who like my music and follow me. And I slowly started, I think one of the earlier ones was I was invited to do a talk for the Petronas Young Executives Club, and that was kind of a music workshop geared towards executives. And I think the point was that what you could learn in music could be applied to problem solving in a corporate environment, could be applied for creativity in the workplace. And so that's kind of the angle that I'm sharing. And I did one for a company called Mindmatics recently. It was an internal company event where I think they were very fascinated that I was traveling. You know, I do tours. I did 2 European tours. One was with the singer I mentioned, Tara Linda, and I also did an self-organized tour. Another thing was even though I'm currently based in Kuala Lumpur, I also work remotely with an American website called Mike's Master Classes. Okay. It's a jazz guitar education website. Right. So I actually do some copywriting for them. I do some video editing for them, and I also I joined the roster as an artist for the website, where I'll be producing educational content for the site. So I think the company Mindmatics, they were fascinated that, hey, you're in KL, right? But you're working with US company, you have a client in Singapore, you're teaching via Skype all around the world. True. So I think they realized that maybe the things that I've been doing as an individual, as in terms of music entrepreneurship, essentially, could be applied to the company, and the mindset could help their own employees, their own staff. How could what I'm doing, if I can do it as a solo, like as a musician, right? Yeah. Obviously, you can scale it if you're in a company,
right?
Yeah, because you have more people and more time and more money, right? More resources. Right. So I'm speaking on that part. So when I shared that, they were really appreciative of it. And the TEDx talks were talking about my experience as a musician. I started late, like I said, I started when I was 16. I had classmates that were starting playing guitar, playing music when they were 4, play piano when they were 4. One of my friends, Genevieve Kam, she started when she was 4. and she's a really famous music director, and I was in like some classes with her. And then another friend of mine, Tokun, who's another music director, he started when he was a kid. So when you are surrounded in college by people who started really young, you have to be creative. How do you catch up to get to that level? And so a lot of the lessons I learned from being a late starter in music, I use that to teach, and I share those lessons when I'm doing speaking engagements as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Recently, you spoke at Level Up KL Southeast Asia Premier Industry on the game developer. It's a big thing on the video game music. So how do you go into the music of game music?
Okay, cool. So I guess to make the story really long, I was a gamer kid. When I was growing up, I was very fortunate to be gaming on the NES, Nintendo 8-bit. I had a Super Nintendo. So as a kid, I'm an only child. I was a spoiled child. I had all these video games, and so I spent a lot of time playing RPGs and a lot of time playing Mario and Zelda and Metroid, all these classic video games, Final Fantasy, some Final Fantasy stuff, Earthbound, different kinds of games. And so I listened to a lot of this game music as a kid, and this was even before I started playing guitar. And later on, a few years ago, I remember I was already playing with the Malaysian Philharmonic Orchestra, so they would invite me to play for whenever they had Pops concerts or whenever they had film music concert. I would play for Pixar in concert, Ratatouille in concert, those kind of concerts. And I remember I was taking a nap, like an afternoon nap. I got this call,
right?
And the guy just asked me, hey, Az, are you into video game music? And that led to actually a discussion, and I was eventually invited to perform as the classical guitar soloist for the first Final Fantasy Distant Worlds concert. So it was conducted by Arnie Roth, and it was featuring the Malaysian Philharmonic Orchestra, and I was the classical guitar soloist for that. So I was performing this piece from Final Fantasy V, I think, Dear Friends, and also Vamos a la Flamenco. So I was the feature soloist. It was amazing. It was a sold-out concert. It was very well received. A lot of people still come to me from time to time. They say, they remember meeting me there watching me perform at that concert. Some of them, maybe the first time watching me was at the Final Fantasy concert. And from that, later on, I was invited again to play for Final Fantasy A New World, music from Final Fantasy A New World. It was they call it A New World Intimate Music from Final Fantasy. It was a chamber concert, also with conductor Arnie Roth. And that was, both those things were the beginning of me realizing that maybe video games, which was my passion as a child, could be something compatible with music that I was doing as a career. And that led me to perform at Game Start, which is a big event in Singapore with the games anime industry. And I was performing music from anime music and also video game music. And then I also performed in Comic Fiesta in Kuala Lumpur, and that led me to having some of my sets have some video game music, anime music. And then eventually what happened was I attended Level Up KL, which is Southeast Asia's premier game development event. Not last year, but the year before that, I attended as an attendee because I was curious about the industry. And then last year they invited me to do a workshop, a day-long workshop, where I was speaking on my expertise about composing. So I was talking about creative music composition techniques for games. Very well attended, people who have composed music for their own games, and also people from game studios that were interested in understanding how music could work better in games. Mm-hmm. And also then I was also I gave a talk, a 1-hour talk on the main stage of Level Up KL, which was amazing. And sharing how music for video games and how important it was, because at least in Malaysia, the music for video games is still something that is relatively up and coming. So I was sharing my experience coming from the music industry and talking about composition and giving examples of how music raises the interest and awesomeness of a game. Because if you think of Mario, right, mm-hmm. I'm sure you're gonna first. Mm-hmm. You're gonna hear the music in your head. Yeah. Or you think of Tetris, you're gonna hear the music. You think of Sonic, you're gonna hear the music. Final Fantasy or Zelda, when you mention this, most people will hear the song in their head.
Right.
So it shows how important music is. So I was very happy to be part of that.
That's good. Another one is that you're big on the continuing education, and I know that you travel to study with great musicians. Some people feel that education end after school or university. What will you say about that?
Okay. So, actually, one of my hashtags that I always use on Instagram is "learning never ends."
Right.
That was it's a very big thing to me, because I feel that especially in Southeast Asia, in Asia, we're very big, like, go to school, go primary school, secondary school, go to university, finish university, get your degree or your master's, whatever it is, get a job and work for the rest of your life. And it almost seems like there is a stigma that you shouldn't still have to learn stuff. Why do you need to learn stuff? You're already working.
Right.
But I feel that some of the most top performers I've met, they never stop learning. They keep buying books, they keep going for courses, going for seminars, going for talks, buying, like, the MOOC thing was very big, like online learning was very big a few years ago, and now like online courses are a thing. I teach via Skype. I've taken lessons with people via Skype, and I think especially in music, as in the music industry, maybe some core things like composing, how do you compose, that's the same, it doesn't change much, music theory side, but the industry keeps on changing. And so if you want to be a top performer, you want to be excelling in your art or in whatever you do, I think continuous learning all the time is something that is an important part of being exceptional, or trying to be exceptional. You have to keep on learning, for sure.
Yeah, that's good. So when you mentioned on the learning, on the education, what kind of site that you learn that people can
okay,
follow you?
can follow me? Okay, my own website. My main site is azsamat.com. That's more of like the overall thing that I do. I also have a website called azsamatlessons.com.
Okay.
AZSAMAD lessons.com, and I post free lessons there. I post free lessons, is like blog post lesson type things, and also I post reviews of books. So I've been doing a lot of book reviews recently on music education books. So I post reviews of books there. So if you're interested to buy jazz books or music books, you can also check out my reviews there for online courses and things like that. And also I also post a podcast as well. So I also teach via podcast. So I kind of try different things. But I think Asamat Lessons is a good place to start for my stuff. And most recently, I've been doing a collaboration with mikesmasterclasses.com, which is an American website. They've been around for 10 plus years or so. And I've been, now I'm on the roster as an artist on the site. So I'm currently working on a course, and hopefully the first of many courses that will be on that website that people can check out as well.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Alright, next. It's actually the last one.
Okay.
So to close that, what would you like to say to the audience, and maybe share how you be able to connect with them again, like you mentioned just now, but probably some other Instagram or whatever that they can follow you, and probably you can end up buying a song that that's good for the audience to listen to.
So yeah, I'm on all the main social media websites. So on Instagram, on YouTube, on Twitter is all at azsamat, AZSAMAD, azsamat. So Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube is at azsamat. On Facebook is at azsamat music. So it's AZSAMADMUSIC. And those are the best ways to reach me. Also, you can check me out on my website, azsamat.com, azsamatlessons.com. And if you guys want to email me, you can drop me an email at azsamat2@gmail.com as well.
Alright, good. And those links available here in YouTube, down under here.
Yeah.
You can check it out. And then thank you so much. Probably you can start with a nice song.
Awesome. So since we're from Malaysia and we're in Malaysia, I'll end with a song by a very famous Malaysian composer. His name is P. Ramlee. He was kind of Malaysia's Renaissance man. He was an actor, a director, a filmmaker, a musician, a composer, a singer. You know, he was many things, and I think he left a legacy of great art that we still kind of look up to. So this is one of his most famous compositions. It's called Getaran Jiwa, which means kind of stirring of the soul, and to me it's a love song for song, essentially, showing that in music you need there's a line that goes like, andai dipisah irama dan lagu, lemah tiada jiwa. Yeah, it's basically you cannot separate irama dan lagu, rhythm and melody, and rhythm and song cannot be separated. If not, the song loses its soul, kind of that, something like that. So let me play that for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, guys,
Thanks.
for watching this show. Subscribe to our channel and also us channel here.
Yes.
Okay, bye.
Bye.